Post it.
Publish it. Yeah. Okay.
Got it. All right, here we go. We're live.
Yeah. Here we are.
How's
again.
it going?
Well, it's good. I feel like it's been 20 years.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute, but here we are. Nonetheless.
That's right.
Here
Well, I don't feel like it's been a minute with you, right?
Yeah,
we talk all the time.
Week. Yeah,
It's just, I'm like, can I remember how to live stream something?
Yep.
Yeah. But does that thing still work? Okay. So I'm going to tell you what, Shane and I really believe in the law of the mastermind. You can go back over video after video. We're now years down the path, and it really does matter, the law of the mastermind. So we practice the principles of the mastermind almost on a weekly basis, even if it's only for 30 minutes to 45 minutes. We get on the phone with each other. We talk about what's going on. We run things by each other. We say, okay, are the results I'm having, are you also seeing the same thing over there? Or am I off in the deep weeds? Like, what's happening? So it's great. I really value those early morning chats. What about you, Shane?
Yeah, for sure. And
Good.
It's pretty cool to think back. I mean, we've been doing this a long time. It's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Consistency of that call has made a lot of difference for me over the years, and I'm grateful. Glad we could do this today too. Right.
And so out of this week's fireside chat, we we probably should have been up by fireside.
Probably so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really chilly here. Yeah. Well, chilly for us.
Yeah.
But we were talking about how in recent, really, I would say for me, probably in recent years, for you also, I would say in the last few recent years, we're just seeing that people are more trusting of us and are talking about us to other people that are like them, which that's that idyllic group that we want more of. But now we don't have to strive as hard to get into that idyllic group. The referrals are closer to the idyllic. And so we were just like, how did that happen? So we were kind of reverse engineering the process. And one thing we both were talking about was it went all the way back to the day we defined the mountain. Right? You defined your mountain. I defined my mountain. And we said, this is it. We are going to stay in these lanes and we are going to see this through. And I know for me, every new client I got in this consultancy made me want to do better work, better and better and better work. And I still today, every time I get a new client, there's a little bit of nerves like, okay, I get another opportunity to prove trust. So we were really talking about the journey of trust that has helped us, easily acquire people, consistently acquire people, but then in the process of the work that we're doing with people, it's made us better. And it's also made us more trustworthy. So I think that was the now that it's all coming back. I think that needs to be my theme song for it's all coming back.
All coming back to me.
I'm not going to sing Meatloaf. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. But
or a poetic reading. Yeah,
right. Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I was gathering back from that conversation a couple of days ago.
Yeah. We were talking about the consistency of income. Because that's what we're all after is this idea of consistency of income.
Yeah.
And how, the journey, pre-Amy and the system, my journey of income looked like this. That was the consistency, decline.
Yeah.
And what I was doing at that point in time is I was reaching and grabbing for anything and everything that I could possibly put out there so that some people might buy something. And that might, solve my problem. That was kind of the feeling. There was a sense of desperation that was there. And so what you taught me, and what I think people in your consultancy as they stay in this work begin to learn is there is a requirement of trust before this steady stream of income can be built. There's a requirement of trust before people are going to be willing to pay you in exchange for solving their problem. And that trust through your system is very strategically built. right? Like, so when you look at the way in which we speak to an audience, it's because we have gone through a process of learning and understanding and knowing that audience before we approach them. So as I talk to my audience, I'm speaking to people who have given me market research to say, this is the very problem that I have. This is how it is affecting me. This is what I really want. Then now when I speak to that, there's an element of trust that's built. It's small, it's incremental, but with consistency over long periods of time, it builds.
Yes.
From there, now when people say, you know what, I've seen enough and I've heard enough from other people who look like me saying, hey, he helped them do that. Maybe he could help me too. There's a willingness for them to take action on that trust and move towards me. When they move towards me, you immediately meet them with increasing levels of trust by saying, I'm not here to sell you anything. I just want 10 to 15 minutes of your time to determine what really is it that you want. Am I the person to help you get it or not? And when I can go in without the expectation of having to do anything to anybody, I can actually help them. And when I help, trust is increasing, right? And so each of the steps of your process gets people through further and further levels of trust that are required before we can get the consistency. I don't know if that makes sense. That's just kind of been my experience with things.
Yeah. And I would say that that is in the very first steps of, of a, just telling a world that doesn't know you're there, this is what I do. This is who I do it for. This is how I do it. And taking them through those early steps. But I've also found that those same steps apply the first day the work begins with the client. Right. So like the very first conversation I have with a client, trust is still, it's still in its infancy. Like I don't suddenly now, because I have the money, doesn't mean that it's just like, hey, now just do what I said. And here I am. And I'm the woman, like I got to continue to incrementally prove to you that the money you invested was a good idea. This was a good idea.
What do you think someone who says yes? I mean, just, if you were with them for the week between, when they buy and when you really start diving in, what do you think they're thinking in that week in between?
I think they're thinking, what have I done?
I think that's exactly what they're thinking. I think they're going, oh my gosh, I just pulled the trigger on that. Oh my God. I really think that is, now what? What is about to happen? And if they're left with a gap of, in that what is about to happen moment, it ain't positive things that they start to think about that decision. It just gets, you know what I mean? So to your point, that nothing creates credibility and trust faster than people getting results.
Yes.
And it's our responsibility, if we say yes, to be prepared to help them get results. That is a weighty responsibility. Someone giving you money to help them is a weighty responsibility, And
and I think the buyer's remorse sets in if because there is an actual like adrenaline rush when someone buys something.
Yeah, initially.
Right? Initially. So there's this rush of, oh man, I just did that. And then the adrenaline fades and now this gap happens and there's a flatness in the emotions and they don't have what they want yet. And so the next step needs to be the last step. They've got to get what they wanted closer to the top of that engagement.
Right on. Yes.
Or that buyer's remorse builds and builds and builds. And in 30 to 60 days, if they still haven't seen results or they haven't moved closer to the result or what we told them was going to happen hasn't started happening, they emotionally check out. Once they're emotionally checked out, they mentally, all the things check out. And you can't reel that back in.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. Trust is a big thing. Trust is not, just one engagement. It's not one thing, and they're like, whoo, okay, now I'm off the hook. No. It's every action and interaction over that long period of time. What I love about what you put together is the ability for me to have focus, right? So when I have focus on my one thing, Like I can be trustworthy because I'm not having to manage 10 different things. Like it's just easier for me to be trustworthy when I have a single focus.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to help people with, because I don't have to push beyond where I can deliver, like at exceptional levels. And I think that's another piece of it. What can accelerate trust is the ability to deliver exceptionally for the people when you show up, you know, and I'm better at that when I have one thing versus multiple things I'm trying to be good at.
Well, and you mentioned that before you had a system and a process that you could rely on, you know, that you were creating multiple things. I was the opposite. I was like, I have this one thing and I'm going to convince you. I'm going to pressure you. I'm going to push you.
It doesn't matter. You need groceries. No, what you really need is a pen. You
That's
really
right.
need a pen.
That's right. And you need this.
I know
pen.
you think you need a car. It's really
That's
a pen.
right. That's right. I mean, this is it. This is the only pen that matters here. And so the reality is that I then had to stop pushing and convincing people to buy my stuff. And I had to say, okay, what do you want? Can I get you that? And how fast can I get it? Because if I can't get it to you fast, then I need to reconsider either the process, I need to reconsider the outcome I'm selling, or I need to consider if maybe I don't know enough yet to get you what you want fast.
Really
right?
Really good.
So, I mean, and I had to, you know, the throughput, the model, the delivery model, the distribution channel, if you will, always allows me to have an input, like a feedback loop, right? So my feedback loop are twice a week. I have calls with small groups of clients, and I really pay attention to the questions they ask me over and over. And that gives me insight into, have I left something out? Am I miscommunicating something because I don't know it well enough to clarify it? Or am I trying to speak in Amy language and not in my client's language? Right.
Yeah.
Or have I introduced it too soon? So if that feedback loop is always helping me get better at communicating. You know, and Shane, really honestly, there's been this rise among my prospective group of needing apps. And I'm like, why? Who said you needed an app? Right? What you want to do with that app?
Yeah.
Because there's only 3 apps that 90% of the entire world use. There's only 3.
No kidding.
Facebook, WhatsApp, and Facebook Messenger, which all 3 are owned by Facebook. Okay. So what that tells me is it's communication that people are after. I need a channel to communicate. So if we think that we're going to sell something and then close the communication gap, we will have a really bad reputation, and that will spread like wildfire through the communication channels of Facebook, WhatsApp, and Messenger. So I think it's also remembering that once you define the mountain, you now have to talk to people and see if that's the mountain they want. Then once they buy your mountain, the trust has not ended, and it's not now, well, you paid me, so you must trust me. That's not true. We then have to fight to get them what they need in the fastest period of time. Now, I'm not responsible for how my clients execute the work. I'm responsible to them. So if I've created the pathway for them to get their outcome in the fastest possible way in a period of time that is beneficial to them and to me, then I've done my job. They just have to join in the work, right?
Yes.
And that's my responsibility. My responsibility is not to get the outcome. My responsibility is to help them get the outcome the soonest I can. So I think in thinking through a service provider and how do we build in loyal trust, we have to remember that it is trust is earned in drips. That's why it is incremental, as you said.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that it doesn't begin and end with the
Conversion.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It really is, it just begins with the first conversation, and every conversation and every step after that is incremental.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Well said. That's
So
good.
I want everyone to remember that systems require some trust from the user. And so, yes, they run our business, but they can run the things that we're doing, systems can, but if we ourselves do not know how to, if we don't understand the journey of trust, we will grow frustrated with a system very quickly because we have not learned the pathway to trust ourselves, human to human. So it's something to remember that you can really only operate systems, and you can only process things so far before trust has to be a factor. It really is behind everything we're doing.
Yeah, very much so.
So anything else you want to add, Shane?
I think what you just said
Okay.
sums it up well.
All right, go earn some trust.